The night sky burned with light as something small tore through the clouds. Leaving a silver trail behind, the noise shook the forest, scattering birds and animals into the dark. Then came the crash, a deep roar followed by silence. The smoke rose slowly, glowing faintly blue in the moonlight inside the wreckage. A tiny alien girl named Lyra opened her eyes. Her head hurt, her small hands were trembling. The ship's glass was cracked. Sparks jumped from the control panel. She pressed a button, but the lights only flickered once and died. Everything was broken. She called softly into the air, "Command? Anyone hear me?" But no one answered. Outside, cold wind blew through tall trees. The forest was quiet again, except for the soft hum of the wreck. Lyra crawled out of the ship, her legs weak. Her silver skin glowed faintly in the dark, and her big violet eyes scanned the unknown world. Her people had always warned her about humans. The elders told stories of tall, violent monsters that ate smaller beings alive. They said humans lived on this planet, and that no alien who met one ever returned. Lyra's heart raced. She clutched a sharp crystal tool she had used for cutting wires. It was useless against the monsters she imagined, but it gave her courage. Every sound made her jump: the rustle of leaves, the call of a distant owl, the crunch of snow under her feet. She moved quickly behind a rock and hid, wrapping her thin blanket around herself. Then she saw a light moving between the trees. It was yellow, swinging side to side, growing brighter each second. A low human voice spoke, deep and rough. She didn't understand the words, but she heard the tone, calm and curious. Her tiny translator was half broken, sending static through her ear. Her heart pounded as she whispered in fear, "No, they found me." The light grew closer, and soon she saw the figure. A human, tall, covered in dark clothing, a helmet on his head. His boots crushed the branches. He held something that shone bright like a second sun. Lyra's breath caught. She tried not to move, not to breathe. But the beam of light swept across her hiding place. It stopped on her trembling form. The human froze. His eyes widened behind his glass visor. Slowly, he lowered the light. His voice came again, soft and unsure. "Hey, are you hurt?" Lyra's translator caught the words halfway. "Hurt, you..." Then, cracked with static, she misunderstood, thinking he was warning her of harm. Her body shook harder. Her hands gripped the crystal blade. Please don't eat me," she whispered, her voice small and trembling. The human blinked, confused. "Eat you?" he repeated, taking a step back. His tone was gentle, but Lyra didn't trust it. Every story told by her people said this was how humans tricked their prey. They spoke softly before the bite. He noticed her wound, a deep cut on her leg, blue blood seeping into the snow. He lifted his hands slowly to show he held no weapon. "It's okay," he said quietly. "I won't hurt you." Lyra shook her head, tears forming in her glowing eyes. "Lies," she whispered. "Humans lie before they eat." The man took another step, then stopped as she raised the small blade. Her hand shook so much that it slipped from her grip and fell into the snow. She looked down, then up at him, expecting him to strike. But he didn't move. He just knelt slowly, carefully. His knees crunching in the frost, he took off his helmet, letting her see his face for the first time. His hair was short and dark. His eyes calm and kind, there was no hunger in them. Only concern. He smiled a little, as if trying to make her feel safe. The smile confused her. "It was not what monsters did, see?" he said softly. "Just a man." Lyra couldn't speak. Her translator buzzed, trying to understand the strange word. Man. She had never heard it before. She felt her fear battle her curiosity. Every instinct told her to run, but something deep inside whispered to stay. The man reached slowly into his bag and pulled out a small light device. He placed it on the ground and stepped back. The device glowed warm like the sun melting a small patch of snow. He pointed to it, then to her. "Warm," he said. Lyra stared, unsure what to do. Her body shivered, the warmth called to her. Slowly, she stepped closer, her eyes still watching the human's every move. When she touched the light, its heat spread through her cold fingers. She gasped softly, a tear rolling down her cheek. The human smiled again, saying nothing more, just letting her stand there, warming herself beside the light. For the first time in her short life, Lyra saw a human not as a monster, but as something she couldn't understand, something gentle. And in that quiet forest, under the pale moon and blue smoke of her broken ship, the first spark of trust between two worlds began to flicker. small but real like a fragile flame against the cold. The cold wind howled through the forest as Lyra stood near the glowing light the human had placed on the ground. Her small body still trembled, her silver skin covered in scratches. She was afraid to move, afraid that even a small step might anger the giant before her. The human Eli watched her with calm eyes. He didn't reach out or speak for a long moment, letting her breathe, letting the fear slowly fade from the air. When Lyra's knees weakened, Eli stepped forward carefully. His voice came low and warm. "You're hurt," the translator cracked, turning the words into fragments. But she understood the tone. He pointed to her leg. Where blue blood soaked into the snow, Lyra tried to take a step back, but her body gave up. The world spun, and darkness pulled her down. Eli caught her before she hit the ground. His hands were large but gentle. He could feel how light she was, almost weightless like a child made of glass. "You're okay," he whispered, even though she couldn't hear him anymore. He looked at the wrecked pod behind them. No way she could survive there tonight. So he carried her in his arms through the forest, the light from his helmet guiding the way. The snow crunched beneath his boots. His cabin wasn't far, just over the hill near the frozen stream. The whole way, Lyra's small fingers twitched against his chest, like she was trying to fight even in her dreams. When Eli finally reached the cabin, he pushed open the wooden door. Warm air wrapped around them. The smell of fire and metal filled the space. Tools, old machines, and shelves of strange items covered the room. He placed her gently on a soft blanket near the heater. Her breathing was weak but steady. Eli worked quickly, cleaning her wound with care. He wasn't a doctor, just a mechanic who fixed ships. But he had learned first aid during his old service years. He used a spray sealant and wrapped her leg with clean cloth. Lyra stirred a little but didn't wake. Her small face looked peaceful under the soft orange light. When morning came, Lyra's eyes opened. She blinked, seeing the wooden walls and strange objects around her. Her heart jumped. She sat up quickly. "No, don't eat me," she shouted, grabbing a metal cup beside her like a weapon. The sound startled Eli, who was pouring water at the sink. He turned, raising his hands. "Easy, easy. No one's eating anyone." Her translator repeated the word anyone, and she looked confused. Eli smiled gently and pointed to a loaf of bread on the table. "Food," he said, tearing off a piece and eating it in front of her. "See? Normal food." Lyra's eyes followed every move. Her stomach growled. She hesitated, then slowly took the piece he offered. Biting it carefully, the taste was strange, soft, warm and safe. Her eyes widened, and for the first time she didn't feel fear, only curiosity. Eli knelt near her, showing a small device from her ship. "Translator?" he asked. She nodded weakly. He connected it to his toolkit, sparks flying as he worked. "Let's fix this little thing," he said. The alien watched quietly as he adjusted wires and replaced chips. Her heart beat fast again, but this time not from fear. She was amazed. When he finished, he handed it back. "Try it now," he said. Lyra pressed a button, and the machine blinked to life. "Testing," she said, and the sound came clear. Her eyes widened. "It works," she whispered, then looked up at him. "You fixed it?" Eli nodded with a small smile. "Told you. Not a monster." Her throat tightened. She didn't know what to say. Everything she had believed since childhood was crumbling inside her mind. The humans her people feared were not what she saw before her. Later that day, snow fell outside as the cabin grew warm and quiet. Eli fixed the generator while Lyra sat near the window, watching white flakes dance in the air. For a long time neither spoke, but there was peace between them. Before sleeping, she whispered softly, "Monsters don't heal others." Her voice trembled, but it carried truth. Eli looked up, smiling gently. "Guess we're not monsters after all." That night, Lyra slept under a blanket made for humans, warm for the first time since the crash. And while the storm roared outside, inside that small wooden cabin, a tiny alien and a lonely human shared something no one in the galaxy had seen before. Trust, fragile and glowing like a small flame fighting against the cold darkness. And as Eli watched her sleep, he whispered quietly to himself, "If only the stars could see this," not knowing that this one small act of kindness would soon echo across entire worlds. Morning sunlight spilled through the small cabin window, painting golden lines across the floor. Lyra sat by the fire watching the flames dance. Her wounds had mostly healed, though her heart still carried fear. Eli moved around the cabin, making breakfast and humming softly. The smell of warm bread filled the air. For the first time since the crash, Lyra felt something like peace, but peace never lasts long, especially when secrets hide in the forest. That afternoon, Eli left to get supplies from the nearby village. "Stay here, all right?" he said gently, pointing to the door. Lyra nodded. Even though she didn't understand all the words, her translator buzzed but caught enough to know he wanted her to stay inside. When the door closed, silence fell again. Lyra wandered around the cabin, touching things with wonder. Metal cups, strange boxes, and glowing screens. She stopped at a small picture on the wall, a young woman and a child smiling beside Eli. Their faces soft, happy. It made her chest ache. She wondered if they were gone, like her own family lost in the crash. Meanwhile, in the human village down the hill, Eli tried to act normal. He greeted people, bought food and medicine, but whispers followed him. "He's been out in the forest a lot lately," someone said. "Saw strange blue lights near his cabin," another added. One hunter swore he'd found small footprints that weren't human. People laughed nervously, but fear spread fast when Eli returned home. He noticed movement near the window. Lyra quickly hid behind the curtain. He sighed. "You were watching me again, weren't you?" he said, smiling tiredly. Lyra peeked out, eyes wide. "Humans outside. They know?" she asked slowly. The translator stuttered. But Eli understood. "Not yet," he said. "But we have to be careful." That night, heavy rain started to fall. Thunder rumbled over the forest. Eli worked on fixing Lyra's broken beacon, hoping it might contact her people. Lyra watched him quietly. "Why help me?" she finally asked, her voice soft. Eli looked up. "Because it's right," he said simply. "And because I think you're braver than most humans I know." Lyra's chest tightened at his words. She didn't understand everything, but she felt their meaning. Hours passed. The storm grew stronger. Lightning flashed through the trees. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door. Eli froze. He motioned for Lyra to hide. She crawled behind a pile of crates as he opened the door slightly. It was one of the hunters from the village, drenched in rain. "Eli," the man said, "we saw smoke near here last night. You sure everything's all right?" Eli forced a calm smile. "Just fixing some old machines," he said. The hunter squinted, looking past him. "You sure you're alone out here?" Eli blocked the view. "Always am," he replied. The hunter hesitated, then handed him a metal flask. "Well, keep your eyes open. Some say something's out there, not from this world." With that, he turned and left into the storm. Eli shut the door, locking it quickly. Lyra came out from hiding, trembling. "They know," she whispered. "They will come." Her voice cracked and her eyes filled with tears. "Your people will hurt me," Eli said softly, walking closer. "Not if I protect you." But that night, as rain beat against the windows, Lyra couldn't sleep. Fear filled her again. What if he was lying? What if humans turned cruel when others found out? She remembered her elders' warnings. Humans always smile before they strike. Her thoughts grew darker as thunder shook the cabin. She rose quietly, her small hands clutching her crystal blade once more. She looked at Eli, asleep by the fire, peaceful, kind, and still. "Human." She turned to the door, her bare feet silent on the wooden floor. She whispered a single word, "Sorry," and stepped into the storm. The rain hit her face as she ran into the forest, her small figure swallowed by darkness. Each flash of lightning showed her path. Her fear and her tears back inside the cabin. Eli woke to the sound of the door creaking open. The cold air rushed in, and his heart sank when he saw the empty blanket. He ran outside, shouting into the storm, "Lyra, come back!" But only thunder answered. He grabbed his coat, a flashlight, and ran after her through the howling wind. He followed faint blue footprints glowing on the wet ground, each one leading deeper into the endless forest. And somewhere ahead, Lyra stumbled, crying, lost and scared once more, not knowing that real monsters were not always what she had been told. Sometimes, fear itself was the cruelest one of all. Rain poured over the forest like silver needles, washing away Lyra's glowing footprints. Her small body shivered as she stumbled between trees, every flash of lightning showing her pale face and frightened eyes. The storm howled around her, but her mind screamed louder. "Humans will find you, they will eat you." The old words of her people echoed like a curse. She slipped down a muddy slope, falling hard. Her translator sparked when it hit a rock. Now only broken sounds came through, she cried softly, curling up under a fallen log for shelter. The rain kept falling, heavy and cold. Meanwhile, Eli pushed through the storm, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. "Lyra!" he shouted, his voice lost in the wind. His boots sank in mud, his breath heavy. He couldn't see more than a few meters ahead. But he kept running. His chest burned with fear, not fear of her. But fear for her. Hours passed, and dawn began to break behind the clouds. The storm weakened, but the forest stayed soaked and heavy. Eli reached a clearing and stopped when he saw lights. White beams moving between trees. Voices shouting orders. "Military patrol." "We found something," one voice called out. Eli's heart dropped. He rushed forward, hiding behind a trunk, in the center of the clearing. Soldiers in gray armor surrounded a small cage. Inside it, trembling and soaked, was Lyra. Her silver skin dull, her eyes wide with terror. "Unknown species," one soldier said, "could be dangerous. Take it to the base for containment." Lyra pressed herself to the corner of the cage. "Please," she whispered, her translator barely working. "Don't hurt me." The soldiers didn't understand. Her words became static. Eli stepped out of the shadows. "Wait," he shouted. The soldiers turned, aiming weapons instantly. "Identify yourself." One barked. "Name's Eli Rains," he said, raising his hands. "That creature's not dangerous. She's hurt." "Scared," one soldier laughed. "You've been in isolation too long, Rains. You're defending a wild alien." "Not wild," Eli snapped, stepping closer. "She talks. She understands. She's just—" "Enough!" the leader ordered. "Step back." Lyra's small hands gripped the bars. "Eli," she cried weakly. Her voice broke through the translator clearly this time. "Please, help." The soldiers froze for a moment. Shocked by the sound of their own language coming from her lips, Eli took the chance. "See? She's sentient. You can't treat her like an animal." But fear outweighed reason. One of the soldiers raised a stun rifle. "Back away," he yelled. When Eli refused, they fired, not at him, but at the cage. Lyra screamed as electricity surged around her. Her tiny body collapsed, unmoving. "Stop!" Eli roared, rushing forward. He punched the soldier holding the rifle, sending him sprawling into the mud. Chaos erupted. Another soldier tried to grab him, but Eli hit him too. Adrenaline and rage took over. "She's not your test subject," he shouted, grabbing the cage lock. "Rains, don't!" Someone yelled, but he didn't care. He broke the latch with his wrench. Opening the cage, Lyra fell into his arms. Weak and half-conscious, her skin flickered with faint light. "It's okay," he whispered. "I've got you." The soldiers aimed again. "We can't let you take her," the leader said. "Then you'll have to shoot me," Eli growled. He turned, carrying Lyra through the rain-soaked forest. Shots fired behind him but missed. The mud slowed them, but he didn't stop. By the time he reached the riverbank, his clothes were soaked, his arms shaking. He laid her down gently on the wet ground. "Stay with me, kid," he said softly. Lyra's eyes fluttered open. "You came back," she whispered. "Of course I did," he said, smiling through the rain. He carried her across the bridge toward his cabin. Hiding from drones flying above, when they finally reached the door, he kicked it shut behind them and laid her near the fire again. Her breathing was weak, but she was alive. As he wrapped her in blankets, Eli looked at her small, fragile form. "They were wrong about you," he whispered, "and maybe you were wrong about us too." Outside, the forest was quiet again, smoke rising where the soldiers had searched. But inside that small cabin, two fugitives from different worlds huddled together against fear and rain, not knowing that their act of trust had already changed the course of something much larger. Not just survival, but the fragile birth of understanding between two worlds. The rain had stopped, but the cabin still smelled of smoke and fear. Lyra lay wrapped in a blanket near the fire, her breathing soft and shallow. Her body trembled every few seconds, her skin had lost its glow, and her once bright eyes were dim. Eli sat beside her, holding a mug of warm tea he knew she wouldn't drink. His hands were still bruised from fighting the soldiers. Outside, dawn broke over the mountains. Mist curling through the trees, Eli looked at her and sighed. "You almost got yourself killed out there," he said quietly. "All because we were stupid enough to fear each other." Lyra stirred, her translator flickering to life. "Why, help me," she whispered, her voice cracked with pain. "Humans hurt. Humans chase me." Her words were broken, but the meaning was clear. Eli looked into the fire for a long moment before speaking. Not all humans are the same, he said softly. Some fight, some fear, but some just want to make things right. He turned toward her, his eyes tired but kind. I've seen war, I've seen greed. I've seen people destroy each other over lies. But I've also seen them rebuild, forgive, and save lives. Lyra blinked, confusion and sadness mixing on her small face. My elders said, humans eat small ones, she whispered. They said humans take worlds, burn skies, destroy peace. Eli gave a small, sad laugh. We don't eat anyone, not anymore anyway, he said jokingly. But his voice carried a deep weight. We made mistakes, yeah, but every race does. You think your people never fought their own? She looked away, silent. The truth stung because she remembered stories her parents had hidden, of old wars, of fear, of her people's own cruelty. You fix things, she murmured after a while. You fix machines and you fix wounds. But can you fix fear? Eli didn't answer right away. He stared at the flames, watching them twist like memories. Fear's the hardest thing to fix, he said at last. But it starts with understanding, that's all it takes. One person willing to listen. He rose and walked to a shelf, pulling down a small picture frame covered in dust. He handed it to her. That's my wife and son, he said quietly. They died 5 years ago when a mining rig exploded. People blamed me, said it was my fault, but I stayed to fix what broke. Lyra looked at the image, her heart aching. The human child smiled brightly, eyes full of life. He looks like me, she said softly, touching the glass. Small, fragile. He was, Eli said, but brave, like you. A tear slipped down her cheek. Your people cry for loss, she whispered. My people hide pain. Crying's not weakness, Eli replied. It's how we remember what matters. He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the forest. You know we've been told things too, he said. That aliens are dangerous, heartless, that they'll conquer us one day, and yet here you are, smaller than my arm, afraid of the dark, afraid of me. He smiled faintly. Maybe both our kinds need better stories. Lyra sat up slowly, her legs still hurting but her mind clearer. You could tell them truth, she said. Tell them we are not monsters. Eli nodded. And you could tell yours the same. For a long time they sat in silence, two different worlds connected by shared wounds and warmth. The fire cracked softly. Lyra's translator beeped, showing low power, but it was enough. She looked at him and said, Maybe humans not eat hearts. Maybe humans fix hearts. Eli chuckled quietly. That's the nicest thing anyone said about us, he said, standing to grab food from the counter. He handed her another piece of bread. Try to eat. Tiny ambassador. Lyra smiled for the first time, the edges of her lips trembling. She took the bread and bit into it. Not monster food, she whispered. Good food. Outside sunlight broke through the clouds, bright and warm, washing the forest in gold. For the first time since the crash, Lyra didn't hide from it. She leaned closer to the window. Feeling its warmth on her face, Eli watched her quietly, realizing something profound. The galaxy had been wrong about humans for so long, and maybe humans had been wrong about the galaxy too. That morning, as the wind carried the scent of rain and peace, the truth stood between them. Humanity wasn't perfect, but it was real, and that made it worth saving. And for the tiny alien girl who once believed humans were monsters, that truth changed everything. For the first time in many nights, peace filled the small wooden cabin. The fire burned low, spreading soft light across the floor. Outside, the rain had stopped, and sunlight crept through the trees. Lyra sat near the window, tracing shapes on the glass with her tiny finger. She no longer trembled when Eli moved, no longer hid when he spoke. Something in her heart had changed. The fear had turned into trust, and trust was slowly turning into something brighter. Hope. Eli worked quietly at his desk, tools spread out, wires tangled like vines. He was repairing the small silver beacon from Lyra's wrecked ship. If I can get this running, he said, tightening a screw, your people might find you. Lyra tilted her head, her violet eyes filled with both curiosity and worry. Find me, she repeated softly, but they will see. Human, she hugged her knees. They will be afraid. Eli looked up from his work, his rough hands resting on the table. Maybe they'll understand, he said. Maybe you'll show them the truth about us. Lyra gave a faint smile. Maybe, she whispered. though deep down she didn't believe it. Her people had spent generations telling stories of human cruelty. They feared even their name by evening. The beacon flickered to life. Blue light filled the cabin. Pulsing gently like a heartbeat, Lyra gasped, standing quickly. "It works," she said in wonder. "It is calling my people." Her voice was trembling. Half joy, half fear. Eli nodded, forcing a small smile. "That's the good news," he said. "Bad news is, they might come here." Lyra's face fell. "If they come, they will not trust you," she said. "They may attack." "I figured," Eli said quietly. "But we'll handle it." He looked at her with calm eyes. "You'll tell them I helped you, right?" "Yes," she said quickly. "I will tell truth, I promise." She paused, looking at him with soft eyes. "You saved me, Eli. You fixed me. You fixed my heart." He smiled gently. "Then I guess that's enough for me." Hours later, the forest fell into silence. The air felt heavy still. And waiting then, in the distance, a hum began to rise, a deep, low vibration that made the ground tremble. Lyra turned toward the window, eyes wide. "They are here," she whispered. "My people." Through the clouds, a silver ship descended slowly, its lights cutting through the mist. The trees bent under its energy field. Eli shielded his eyes. "Well," he muttered, "guess I'm meeting the in-laws." The ship landed in the clearing, dust swirling around it. From the hull, several tall figures stepped out, their armor gleaming, weapons in hand. They moved with precision, their glowing blue eyes scanning the forest. Lyra opened the door, her heart pounding. "Wait," Eli said, grabbing her shoulder. "They might shoot first, ask later." "They will listen to me," she said firmly. "They must." She stepped into the clearing, her small form glowing faintly in the moonlight. The aliens raised their weapons instantly, one shouting in their native tongue, "Stay back! The human has captured you." Lyra shook her head. "No," she cried. "You are wrong." Her translator crackled, but her voice carried across the clearing. "He did not capture me. He saved me." The alien commander, tall and cold, narrowed his eyes. "Impossible. Humans are predators." "Lies," Lyra said, her voice shaking but strong. "You told us humans eat us, burn worlds, destroy all. But I have seen with my own eyes humans heal, they care. They protect." She turned and pointed toward Eli, who stood behind her in silence. "This one fixed my wounds, gave me food, gave me safety. He did not harm me, even when he could." The commander's expression didn't change. "You were deceived," he said. "They are cunning." Lyra took a trembling step forward, her voice rising. "No, you are deceived," she shouted. "You live in fear of old stories. But this man, this human, showed me truth." Her words echoed through the forest. The soldiers hesitated, their weapons lowering slightly. The commander looked at Eli again, seeing not a monster but a tired, bruised man standing quietly. Unarmed, Eli didn't speak. He simply nodded once, letting her words speak for both of them. Finally, the commander gave a short signal, and the soldiers lowered their weapons fully. "You will come with us," he said to Lyra. "Your people will judge your story." Lyra turned back to Eli, her eyes filled with tears. "I must go," she whispered. "But I will not forget." He nodded slowly. "Go home, Lyra. Tell them who we really are." She hesitated, then reached into her small satchel and pulled out a glowing crystal. She pressed it into his hand. "So you remember me," she said. "And so I remember you." The ship's ramp began to close. Lyra looked one last time at the cabin, the firelight flickering through the window, the place where fear had turned into friendship. As the ship rose into the night sky, Eli watched silently. The blue light fading into the stars, he whispered to himself. "Safe travels." "Little one." Above him, among the clouds, the message beacon blinked its last signal, a signal that would soon change how two worlds saw each other forever. The night was quiet again, only the soft whisper of wind moving through the forest. The blue light in the sky was gone, leaving behind a lonely silence. Eli stood outside his cabin, staring upward. The small crystal Lyra had given him glowed faintly in his hand, pulsing with a rhythm that almost felt alive. It was warm, a reminder of her. Days passed, then weeks. The forest grew green again as spring came. The wreck of Lyra's pod had been taken away by the soldiers, but Eli's cabin remained untouched. He went back to repairing old machines, collecting parts, keeping his mind busy. Yet every night when the sky turned dark, he found himself stepping outside, looking at the stars. wondering if she had made it home one evening. As he sat by the fire sipping cold coffee, a soft hum filled the air. At first he thought it was a storm approaching, but then the sound grew sharper, a steady pulse. Like a signal, he hurried outside following the noise. The crystal in his hand began to shine brighter, beams of light spiraling upward. Then he heard it, a voice distant and soft, carried by the air like an echo through time. Eli. He froze, his heart racing. Lyra? He whispered. The voice grew clearer. The crystal projected a faint image, her face glowing and calm, surrounded by stars. Eli, can you hear me? She said, her translator perfectly clear now. I hope this message reaches you. Eli could barely breathe. He stepped closer, holding the crystal as if afraid it might vanish. I'm here, kid, he said softly. I hear you. The image flickered but stayed steady. Lyra smiled. I made it home, she said. At first they did not believe me. The council called me broken, said my mind was infected by human lies, but I did not stop speaking. Her image shifted, showing her standing before a great hall of alien leaders, their eyes cold and doubtful. I told them everything, she continued. How you saved me, how you protected me, how you showed me what humans really are. I told them humans do not eat others, they feed others. They do not burn stars and they keep the light alive. Eli felt a lump in his throat. Good job, Lyra, he whispered. You always were brave. She smiled faintly. It was not easy, she said, but something changed. Some listened. Some began to question the old stories. And when I showed them the recording of you helping me, they saw it with their own eyes. Her image flickered again, showing scenes of aliens gathered around, watching a hologram of Eli fixing her wounds, feeding her bread, sitting beside her near the fire. The crowd looked shocked, then silent. They called it the proof of compassion, Lyra said softly. Your name is known now, Eli reigns across the stars. Eli's eyes widened slightly. I didn't do it for fame, he said, chuckling sadly. I just did what anyone decent would. I know, Lyra said. That is why it mattered. You did not save me for reward. You saved me because it was right. My people are learning slowly. The old fear is fading. The projection shimmered as her voice softened. I wanted to tell you, thank you for showing me the truth about your kind. And about mine. She paused, her eyes filled with emotion. I wish I could visit, but it is forbidden now. They still fear what they do not understand. Eli smiled, though his eyes glistened. You already visited, Lyra, he said quietly. And you left something better than your ship. You left hope. Her small laugh came through the static. You always say strange things, Eli, she said gently. But I understand them now. The projection began to fade. The crystal dimmed, but her voice remained, echoing softly. One day, when the stars are kind again, we will meet. Until then, look up, I will be waving. The signal ended, leaving only the quiet hum of night. Eli stood there for a long time looking at the sky. He placed the crystal on the windowsill, where its faint glow joined the light of the stars. Later that night, a new transmission appeared across human communication channels. It carried a message translated from an unknown source. The words were simple yet powerful. Humans are not monsters. They are proof that even in the dark, light survives. The message spread fast, across colonies, ships, and alien worlds, sparking curiosity, hope, and change back in the forest cabin. Eli looked up one last time before going inside. The stars seemed brighter that night, and somewhere out there, among 1,000 worlds, a small alien girl was smiling too. He whispered softly, "Good night, Lyra," and closed his eyes. The fire burned low, the crystal glowed steady, and far beyond the stars, two hearts from two worlds remained forever connected, not by fear but by understanding. And so, the story of a frightened alien girl and a lonely human mechanic became legend, a quiet tale that taught galaxies that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can echo across eternity.